In the high desert of northeastern Utah, the ground has kept a secret for a very long time. It is called Skinwalker Ranch, and on its western boundary stands a mesa so ordinary that most people would pass it without a second thought. Sandstone, sagebrush, wind, and yet, beneath that quiet surface, something has been waiting, undisturbed, for longer than anyone can say. For years, that mesa has hosted one of the most unusual scientific investigations ever conducted on American soil, and at its center stands Travis Taylor. He is an optical engineer, a scientist built on hard, repeatable evidence. He did not come to this ranch looking for ghosts. He came looking for data. But the data would point him towards something his training had never prepared him to find, a massive object, buried deep inside the mesa, that has refused every attempt to touch it. That is the question that carries this story, and it deserves to be asked plainly. What is buried inside the mesa, and why does every attempt to reach it end badly? The ground has not simply been left alone. Drill bits have shattered against something beneath the surface. Radar returns have described a shape that should not exist, and scattered traces suggest that someone else tried to dig here decades ago and then walked away. This is not a story with easy answers. It is what happened when careful, disciplined people finally decided to dig and what the ground gave back. But before we go underground, we should understand what this place meant to the people who knew it first. Long before the ranch carried its name, the Ute people moved through this land, and their elders passed down a warning. Do not disturb the earth here. Something about this valley was not meant to be tampered with. It would be easy to call that legend until you stand on the mesa and feel how easily it holds its silence. And the strangeness did not stop with the Ute. For decades, ranchers reported things they struggled to put into words. Lights drifting over the fields after dark, animals behaving as if watched, moments when the ordinary rules of the world seemed to bend, just enough to shake a man. They were not excitable people. They simply lived alongside it. Then, in 2016, a real estate developer named Brandon Fugal bought the ranch, and with it, every unanswered question. What Fugal did next was the only serious thing anyone could have done. He did not hire ghost hunters. He assembled a team of credentialed scientists, engineers, and former military specialists with a simple mandate: treat this place like any unsolved problem with instruments, methods, and patience. That was the pivot. Legend became a laboratory. And among the first Fugal asked to help lead it was Travis Taylor, a man with a doctorate in optical science and an unshakable faith in what the numbers say. He is not the sort of person who gets swept up in a good story. He asks what the evidence shows, then waits for an answer. If something is down there, he wondered, why has no one ever reached it? What follows is the closest look anyone has been given at the most mysterious object beneath one of the most secretive places in the American West, what the instruments saw, what the ground gave up, and what remains unanswered. The first step was simply to look, to send ground-penetrating radar across the mesa, line by line. The team expected what the geology predicted: sandstone, moisture, the normal architecture of a desert landform. That is not what the radar showed. Deep beneath the surface, the returns described several objects, one of them enormous, far too large to be explained away as a boulder or buried equipment. Any good investigator first doubts his own instruments. The team recalibrated, ran the passes again, tried to explain the signal as rock, water, or forgotten mining debris. One by one, those explanations failed. The signal kept coming back, in the same place, at the same depth, with the same stubborn consistency. Then came the magnetometer, which measures variations in the Earth's magnetic field, and it found something radar had only hinted at. Directly beneath the mesa, the magnetic readings clustered into a tight, concentrated zone of anomaly, a patch of ground where the natural magnetic field refused to behave. In that moment, the team gave the area a name that would follow them for years: the bubble. And here the mystery deepened, because the instruments did not always agree. The radar painted one picture. The magnetometer painted another. Thermal scans recorded heat signatures that did not line up with anything geological. Three ways of seeing the same ground, yet all agreed on one point. Something unusual occupied that space, at depth, and it was real. Later, laser surveys added another layer of strangeness. LiDAR registered a presence that could not be seen by the eye, anchored to the coordinates the other instruments had flagged. At that point, the team faced an uncomfortable decision. Instruments can only suggest. They can draw a shape in the dark and leave it at that. If the team wanted to know what was down there, there was only one way to find out. They would have to drill. The rig was moved over the anomaly, an operation taking days of preparation because the team understood they were not digging a hole in ordinary ground. They were probing a boundary. The site was staked, the rig anchored, and the first borehole turned into the earth. Every decision had been weighed in advance. Nothing about this operation was casual. Almost immediately, things started to feel wrong. The rock did not behave the way the geology said it should. Heat readings came back that did not match the surrounding terrain, as if something down there was generating warmth of its own. And in the quiet moments between shifts, more than one crew member thought about the old warning about not disturbing the earth. It no longer felt like folklore. It felt like a description of what they were doing. The drilling was slow, and not just because the work was precise. Equipment strained in ways it should not have. Stoppages came without explanation, and the driller, who reads rock the way a musician reads a score, grew uneasy at what the bit was telling him, the vibrations changing as it descended, the ground resisting, not like stone resists a hammer, but like something sentient resists intrusion. At roughly 33 feet, they reached the first target depth and switched to a larger core barrel to cut deeper. What they were after, they now understood, was not a single sample. In the command center, someone stated it plainly, and it has stayed with them ever since. For years they had drilled the Mesa, investing time and reputations to identify one massive object and several smaller ones around it. 3 years of drill string, 3 years of core samples, 3 years of watching the data refuse to make sense. Dr. Taylor's assessment, delivered with his usual careful understatement, was that the data and the drill were telling two consistent, disturbing stories. The instrument said something was there. The drill said it did not want to be reached. When two reliable sources of information agree about something that should not exist, you have crossed a line. You are no longer investigating a possibility. You are investigating a fact that lacks a name. What do you do when the ground itself seems to be saying no? You change your approach. You bring in a bigger tool. You go deeper. And eventually, if you are lucky or unlucky enough, you bring something back. What the core barrel brought back was the first evidence that the object beneath the mesa might not be natural at all. At roughly 70 feet, the drill recovered flakes of metal, thin sheets that glinted in the core trays like nothing else around them. They looked like contamination, but every test said otherwise. In the laboratory, the analysis came back with a name none of them had expected. The flakes were composed of layered lead zirconate titanate, an extraordinarily hard ceramic compound used in modern engineered systems, particularly in piezoelectric devices, materials that convert mechanical stress into electrical signals. This is a substance that belongs in laboratories and aerospace components. It has no business being buried 70 feet deep inside a sandstone mesa in northeastern Utah. Nature does not manufacture lead zirconate titanate. It is a manufactured, high-technology compound, and there is no record of anyone manufacturing it here. The implication, if the material is genuine, is the kind of thing a scientist must say out loud and immediately qualify because its weight is enormous. A piezoelectric ceramic deep in a mesa would suggest engineered sensing, energy handling, or exotic materials of the kind associated with advanced aerospace claims, and the team knew it. Eric Bard, who runs the ranch's data operations, and Thomas Winterton, who leads much of the field work, spent long hours with the material, test after test, the way careful people repeat what they do not want to believe. Their reactions were telling not for their drama, but for their restraint. They compared the find against known geology and known human history. There was nothing local that could have produced it, no documented operation, no lost experiment, no forgotten program that claimed this patch of desert. Each alternative was examined, weighed, and set aside with visible discomfort, because ruling things out was supposed to make the problem smaller. Here, it only made the mystery larger. If nature did not make this, the question became unavoidable. Who did, and when? And that was before the drill met the object itself. The flakes were only a prelude to the main event. At a specific depth, the drilling stopped being a matter of slow progress and became a matter of resistance. Drill bits shattered. Bits designed to cut through solid rock came up broken, their teeth snapped off, and the driller described with growing disbelief what the bit had found. Something unusual, dome-shaped, and completely unyielding, directly beneath the borehole. At the very depth the instruments had been pointing to all along. It was not a layer of hard rock. The drill had already passed through plenty of that. This was something else, something the equipment simply could not penetrate. And then came a finding that pushed the mystery further. The instruments detected a void surrounding the object, a pocket of empty space, as if the ground had been pushed aside to make room for something solid, something that did not belong to the mesa. The team re-rigged the drill with the bigger core barrel and tried again. Same point, same resistance, same broken equipment, almost as if the operation were being repeated on purpose, a test of their patience. Not a random obstruction, the same obstruction, at the same depth, in the same place, every single time. And the instruments that had guided them this far began to misbehave. Readings glitched, data dropped out whenever the drill made contact, as if touching the object disturbed them. No natural material behaves this way. It behaves like nothing they had ever studied, nothing described in any literature they could find. Nothing in the textbooks describes an object that breaks drill bits, deflects instruments, and sits surrounded by a void, waiting. Dr. Taylor, choosing his words with care, defined this entire investigation in a single sentence. The Mesa's anomaly, he said, continues to defy explanation. Notice what he did not say. He did not say it was alien. He did not say it was supernatural. He said it defied explanation. For a man of his training, a confession of the most serious kind, and around him, the crew carried the weight of the discovery in their bodies. There was exhaustion, the kind that comes from weeks of labor against an enemy you cannot see. There was frustration, the irritation of professionals accustomed to solving problems, meeting one they cannot solve. And underneath it all, the uncomfortable realization that the Mesa had held this secret far longer than anyone had tried to take it. The object patient and undisturbed while generations lived and died above it. What is hard enough, deep enough, and old enough to refuse every machine we have? The team could not answer it, but they could not leave it alone either. Then the past tapped them on the shoulder. A nickel found at the drill site, a worn coin stamped 1964. On ground supposed to be untouched, someone had dropped it decades before the modern team arrived. And once the team began looking, old photographs surfaced showing excavation at the Mesa in that era, activity no one in living memory had mentioned. The implications settled over the investigation like a shadow. Someone else had been here first. Someone else had detected something in this Mesa, had dug toward it, and had then left, either by choice or because they were stopped. Think about what that means. The current team investigates the Mesa with radar, magnetometers, laser scanning, and laboratory analysis. Whatever operation was at the Mesa in 1964 would have had none of that. They would have had drills and intuition and maybe a geologist's report. And yet they came to the same place, dug toward the same object, and then vanished from the record. There are no records of that effort. No public reports. Only the nickel, the old pictures, and the traces of a dig that led somewhere it was not supposed to go. What became of the people who made that attempt? What did they find or sense that convinced them to stop? And here is a question the evidence simply does not answer. Was the 1964 effort a private venture, an academic study, or something else entirely? It is left deliberately open, because honesty is the only currency this investigation trades in. The resonance between the old and the new is almost too neat to be coincidence. The old warning said, "Do not disturb the earth." The old dig disturbed it anyway, and ended in silence. The new investigation, with all its technology, has reached the same wall. If people knew about this decades ago, if someone was drilling toward this object almost 60 years before Travis Taylor's team arrived, then why has it never been explained? Why has no one ever reached it? The past, it seems, had already learned something the present is still trying to learn the hard way. But the Mesa was not done with them yet. The strangeness was not confined to the ground. It was in the air as well, Directly above the coordinates the instruments had been flagging all along. The drones went first. Time after time they behaved unpredictably over the anomaly zone, losing telemetry, deviating from course, always over the same patch of sky. It was as if the machines could sense something the pilots could not see, as if the sky itself refused to cooperate above that one patch of ground. The team deployed SLAM LiDAR and infrared imaging. Both detected a presence previously found only by laser, a signature with no visible source, occupying space the eye could not confirm, but the instruments absolutely could. And this presence was stationary. It held its position across multiple experiments, refusing to move or dissipate, sitting in the same coordinates the radar had identified in the ground below. Localized equipment failures became a pattern. Sensors dropped out inside the anomaly zone and revived the moment they left it, as if the boundary were being policed. Slowly, the team was forced toward an interpretation none had come expecting to make. The environment appeared to react to probing. It responded to observation, to intrusion, the way something alive responds to being examined. And if you set all the findings side by side, a difficult picture begins to form. The forbidden history above the ground, the engineered material beneath it, the atmosphere that answers back. They may not be three separate mysteries at all. They may be one system, one integrated response, one boundary studied from every angle that has never once yielded. Are we the ones investigating? The team began to wonder. Or are we the ones being studied? It is a question that inverts everything, and it has never been answered. In the end, the scientists themselves carry the heaviest burden, because they are the ones who must say the words out loud. They worked through the natural explanations first. A meteorite, perhaps, buried by an ancient impact? The object's scale and the void surrounding it make a meteorite deeply unlikely, and a meteorite would offer no account of the piezoelectric ceramic. Naturally occurring magnetic rock? The Mesa contains iron-bearing formations, but the concentrated anomaly in the bubble is not ordinary rock, and no natural rock produces the layered, engineered structure they recovered from the core. One by one, the comfortable explanations were set aside, not because the team wanted them to fail, but because the evidence refused to support them. And that, more than any single reading, was what unsettled the investigators most. And this is where Travis Taylor earns the trust this entire episode has been building toward, because he frames the situation the way a true scientist frames every extraordinary claim. Extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence, he reminds the team, and the team knows it. What they have gathered is extraordinary evidence, remarkable, and also incomplete. The object's size is unknown. Its composition is unknown beyond the ceramic flakes that surround it. Its age, purpose, and origin are unknown. The team cannot confirm a single one of these things, and they refuse to pretend otherwise. There is a humility in that refusal that is rare in any field, and it is the most credible thing about this investigation. They will not fake closure. They will not declare a victory they have not won. They will say, in effect, we do not know. And yet the personal cost of that honesty is real. To stand that close to an answer, to have your instruments pointing at it, to have your drill grinding against it, and still be unable to reach it, is a particular kind of torment, and the team does not hide it. They live with the question the way you live with an old wound. It aches in quiet moments and never fully heals. So perhaps the most honest question this investigation can leave us with is this: how much evidence is enough before a mystery becomes an answer? Because that moment has not yet arrived at Skinwalker Ranch. The evidence is extraordinary, the explanation incomplete. And that difference is where the team still stands, with their equipment packed for another season. Which brings us, at last, back to the Mesa itself, and to the three layers of mystery it holds, the way a stone holds its shadow. Above the ground, the history, the old warning and the old dig, the generations who knew this place was different and chose not to touch it, and the outsiders in 1964 who tried and left. Beneath the ground, the engineered material, the flakes of piezoelectric ceramic, the massive unyielding object at the center of the void, holding its position in the dark. And all around it, the response, the sense that the boundary is not asleep, that it notices, that it reacts. If the material beneath the Mesa is truly manufactured, and that is still an if, then the implications reach far beyond one ranch in Utah. It would mean that our understanding of this valley, and perhaps of our own history, and of who reached this land first, is incomplete in ways we have only begun to measure. It would mean that the questions we are asking are older than we are. The team intends to continue. More experiments, deeper questions, because no one involved is ready to accept that the Mesa has won. But they will not manufacture a conclusion to save themselves the discomfort of uncertainty. That is not how science works, and it is not how these people work. So we leave them where they have spent so many nights, standing at the edge of the Mesa, looking out over ground that has given them everything except the one answer they came for. The object is still down there, undisturbed, in its pocket of silence, in its void, behind its wall of unbreakable resistance. It held its secret before any of us were born, and it will hold it long after we are gone. Some mysteries are not failures of science. They are invitations to humility, reminders that the universe is older, stranger, and more patient than we are, and that some doors are not opened by force, but by persistence, honesty, and the willingness to keep asking. The drill will return to the Mesa. The questions will be asked again. And somewhere deep beneath the sandstone, in the dark, the most mysterious object ever discovered inside the Mesa will still be waiting, exactly where it has always been, exactly as it has always been, for us to come back and try again.